Hello and welcome everyone back to Holy Shift. Parents are rethinking everything, so should we. I'm Reverend Nima Cyrus Franklin, project coordinator of Around the Table, and I'm so glad that you're here for session 2 of our series. In last week's session, we heard some eye-opening research about the changing role of spirituality and faith among young adult parents. Today, we're going to go a little deeper, moving from the data to the dreaming. And in both large and small groups, we'll listen to each other, share stories, and reflect on what this means for our ministries, our households, and how we nurture faith together. But before we begin, let me introduce the incredible team guiding us today. First is Janet Hayes. Janet serves as the mission specialist, coordinating many of our behind-the-scenes details that make our work possible in the Office of Christian Formation. Next up is Miata Wilson. Miata brings wisdom and insight as she connects communities with resources and all those together through those relationships. And we are also joined by Reverend Nikki Collins, coordinator for the 1001 New Worshiping Communities Initiative in the Presbyterian Church USA. And the 1001 Initiative has co-sponsored this series, and we're grateful for Nikki's partnership and presence with us today. And last but not least, our facilitator for this session, Reverend Libby Tedder Hughes of Resonant Coaching, who will be guiding us through today's conversation, helping us translate the research into practice. And so together, we're here to create space for you to share, reflect, and imagine what's possible in your context. But before we dive in, there are just a few quick Zoom reminders so our time flows smoothly. Please take a moment to rename yourself in your Zoom photo box using the 3 little dots at the top right corner with your first and your last name and your pronouns. If you look at my box, you can actually see my name there on the screen, Nima Cyrus Franklin, with my pronouns, she and her. I also put in there the area that I serve in the Christian formation. So you're welcome to put your ministry context if you would like, following your name and pronouns. And as a reminder, everyone who participates in all 3 Holy Shift sessions will receive an email with a form to apply for 1 free coaching session to help you take the next faithful step in your ministry. Just remind you that space is limited, so be sure to complete the form when it arrives. Janet, Miata, and I will be serving as your tech deacons. Also, Nikki will be serving as your tech deacons for today's session. So if you have a concern, you can send us a private message in your chat if a need or concern arises, and we'll do our best to assist you today. Also, during our large group time, you're welcome to use the chat for questions, reflections, or encouragement. And when we move into breakout rooms, please turn your camera on if you're able. It helps the conversation feel much more personal. And everyone will have a chance to share, so keep an eye on the time and make space for all voices. And as always, mute yourself when you're not speaking so we can hear each other clearly. And with all the housekeeping complete, let's open with a word of prayer. Creator God, you make all things new and call us to dream with you. Open our hearts to your Holy Spirit, our ears to one another, and our hands to the ministries you are shaping. Bless this time of dreaming and discernment, that our words today may grow into acts of love for tomorrow. In the name of Jesus Christ, we pray. Amen. And so welcome everyone, and we also welcome to and give the mic over to Reverend Libby.
Thank you so much, Nima. Oh my goodness, I have full body gratitude and spirit chills this morning to be in a room full of dreamers. What a powerful time we're going to have together. It is my joy to help facilitate our dreamstorming, brainstorming conversation today. And let's just do a little energy and vibe check. I have some curiosity on a scale of pig. How are you arriving in the room today? You can just drop in the chat which number you most relate to today. I think I'm vibing with 6. It's like part grin, part yawn, you know? I told the others this morning that my 5-year-old was singing Just Another Manic Monday when she was getting dressed for school this morning, you know? So Let us know which of these pigs you might be vibing with so that we can do an energy check on how we're arriving in the morning. I love it. I love it. I'm seeing all kinds come through. The good news is that all God's creatures belong. So whichever of these pigs you relate to this morning, you are welcome into the space. And I would love to introduce to us, thanks for participating and sharing. I would love to introduce to us a way that we are going to set our conversation guidelines today. So, I have a big professional gratitude crush on Brene Brown, the courage and vulnerability researcher. And she has this beautiful mantra that she says, let's be awkward, brave, and kind together. And so the following conversation guidelines are based on that really invitational um, mantra from Brene, and they are also rooted in Margaret Wheatley's Turning to One Another and Parker Palmer's book, A Hidden Wholeness. So, what I'm going to do for us today is I'm going to read these out loud, and then we'll have a minute to respond if we are willing to engage our dream storming conversation this way today. So, here they are. We commit to co creating awkward, brave, and kind space. We acknowledge one another as equals. We will stay curious about each other. We remember that conversation is the natural way that humans think well together. We slow down so that we have some time to think and reflect, which is the whole reason why this webinar is happening today. We recognize that we need each other's help to become better listeners. We agree to no debating, correcting, or criticizing. We all have different beliefs and experiences, so this is an important guideline as we seek to be brave community. We will promote a brave space for honest conversation using I statements and open questions, not advice or critique. We agree to set aside judgment to listen compassionately to others and to ourselves more deeply. If we disagree with someone, we might ask ourselves, I wonder what might have brought them to this belief? Or what is she feeling right now? Or what does my reaction teach me about myself? We will attend to our own inner teacher as we explore through questions and reflect.
Libby, you are accidentally muted. Can you unmute?
Of course. What was the last thing you heard me say, Nima?
Just go two sentences where above where you were.
Okay. Like we agree to set aside?
Yes.
Okay. We agree to set aside judgment to listen compassionately to others and to ourselves more deeply. If you disagree with someone, ask yourself, I wonder what might have brought them to this belief. Or what is she feeling right now? Or what does my reaction teach me about myself? We will attend to our own inner teacher. As we explore through questions and reflection, we also have a unique opportunity to learn from our own responses and reactions. And we expect it to be messy at times. So, if you are willing to help co create an awkward, brave, and kind space in this webinar today, I just invite you to drop either the phrase I'm in or your favorite cooperative emoji in the chat for us today. So, if you are willing to abide by these conversation guidelines where we are going to set up a space where we can hear from one another and listen well to each other, thank you for these reactions and these responses. Because when we head into breakout rooms a little bit later, it's going to be helpful for all of us to know that we're going to co create that space together. I appreciate it so much. Thank you all. All right. So let us now shift to recapping and remembering what we learned in session one. So, Josh Packard brought us those incredible findings where we were learning together about the results of the Tri-Tank study. And just to give us a visual on what it was that we were learning together, here's a little bit about what those findings sort of brought out of the research. The research really let us know that the faith stops here, right? Nuns, as parents, they are parenting really differently from religiously affiliated peers. They rarely engage their children in formal religious practices and instruction or rites, and few worry about them and whether or not their children are going to be religious adults. Still, many of them are expressing a desire for some connection to transcendence and spirituality. We also learned that religion really is the least of their concerns. They're worried about finances and health and education and stability, but passing on religious faith and ranks last among their parenting priorities. Thirdly, we're realizing that for them, life is hard and the church is not really seen as a resource. 71% of them said that life is harder than they expected it to be at this stage. They turn to family, friends, and partners for support, but not to institutions like the church. And churches are seen as not especially helpful in navigating life transitions. We also heard that Jesus is popular, but the church is not. So Jesus is viewed favorably, but institutions are seen with distrust. Only 45% of this age group identifies as religious, though many still call themselves spiritual. And then parents are really trusting themselves the most, right? 84% are confident in their ability to teach their kids how to live meaningful lives. And they see family, not church, as the main driver of moral formation. And then this number 6, virtues matter, but parents don't think that the church teaches them well. So parents in this age group highly value love, kindness, peace, and self-control, but they perceive a gap between the virtues that they want to teach their children and what the church emphasizes. So, a couple of the key findings, key takeaways here from that research is that disaffiliation is very, very real. So, we're recognizing that sort of that trope that parents are going to come back to the church after they've left and sort of sow their wild oats and come back and build families, they're going to come back to the church. That's not happening the way that it did in the 20th century. There's a shift in priorities. Parents are valuing empathy and tolerance and resilience over formal religion. And there are a ton of barriers to church: time, schedules, perceptions of irrelevance and judgment. And then opportunities are for relational engagement and service projects and flexible worship and inclusive spirituality. So I'm curious to know from those of you that are here to learn, which of these findings that we learned in last week's webinar surprised you the most or confirmed your experience? So just let us know in a sentence or two in the chat which of these findings surprised you the most or confirmed your experience as either a parent in that age group, or a person who is doing your best to serve and connect with this age group? Yeah. So there's some confirmation that like church is not being perceived as cool or relevant or helpful. That lack of trust is really being felt, um, confirming the disaffiliation that's happening here. Interesting that it's confirmed that a lot of people are relying on their families or their own intuition to transmit what's valuable to their children. Seems like there's a gap between what the church is emphasizing and what this age group is looking for. Mm-hmm. Not a ton of surprise for some folks, maybe surprise initially, or maybe some sort of like sticker shock at what the research was confirming. But then as you sat with it, you were like, oh, I get it. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Keep those thoughts rolling in if you want to share with us in the chat. So The data now is a tool and a way to understand the reality of this gap that some of us are feeling. And so today's session is this dream storming session, right? We are being invited to think about how God is asking us to reshape our imagination and our innovation for ministry with young adult parents. So today's session is really about the power of innovation and imagination. This is where we get to do that dream storming. So let me name sort of three goals of what we want to get out of today's session. We want to inspire your creativity. We want to inspire you to connect with the change makers and way makers in your congregations to inspire innovation. We want to imagine contextual possibility. And in just a moment, I'm going to frame what I mean by possibility. And then we want to practice some risk taking together. So, especially as we move into breakout number two, we're going to start really playing with that risk taking so that we can all sort of break out of problem solving in the past. So, a little bit of nerdy brain science for you for just a moment as we sort of frame what possibility is, okay? When brains are in survival, they're of course focused on getting needs made and making sure that safety is possible. So we are pulling some stuff from the data here where we think that the parents that we're attempting to connect with, some of them might be coming out of survival mode, right? Which is the same that is true for those of us that are in ministry. We might find ourselves operating out of keep the church alive mode, which is survival mode, instead of out of that thrive, higher thinking creativity mode. So, really, what we're going to tap into here today as a community is we're going to tap into as much higher thinking out of survival mode as we can. Now, we all had the chance to say where we were coming from on a scale of pig, so there might still be a little bit of survival there, but we're just going to suspend the judgment that we might have about what's possible and practice what I call the 10% rule. The 10% rule is that any idea we or our conversation partners come up with today, instead of dismissing it, we're going to ask the curiosity question, what's 10% possible about that? Because that's going to click us over into innovate brain. Okay. So instead of getting stuck in past orientation of problem solving together, we're really going to turn our attention to future orientation and tease out what God is inviting us into rather than what God is asking us to make better or solve. So, along with that mantra of awkward, brave, and kind, if something seems outlandish or absurd or just out there, we're going to ask that 10% possible question. And this allows thriving brain to really come online. Okay. So before we jump into describing our first breakout room, I'm going to actually invite you all to be a little bit awkward, brave, and kind with me with some body movement. Okay. So we're all muted right now, which means nobody's going to be able to hear you do this. So I'm going to model it to you. You're going to hear me do it, but you're going to do it with me because we're going to be awkward, brave, and kind together. The posture of our bodies and our brains is now going to come into a little bit of alignment. So we're going to start with horse breath. Here's what horse breath sounds like. Horse breath sounds like this. We're just going to allow our breath to come through a deep inhale, come through our throats and jaws, and out through a big expulsion of horse breath. And this is a way that we're just going to get out any survival mode that has come into the webinar with us. So on the count of three, nobody can hear you. It's just me. You're going to do a big horse breath. So on the count of three, big inhale. 1, 2, 3, and let it out in horse breath. Awesome. Thank you for being awkward, brave, and kind with me. And then we're going to do a little bit of hand flicks. So any sort of like, ooh, I'm feeling like this is impossible. Any sort of like, ooh, I don't think I can do this. You're just going to flick it like there's water on your hands. Like there's no air dryer in the bathroom, right? You're just going to flick those hands and get all of that extra, I can't do this energy off of your hands. Thank you so much for being awkward, brave, and kind with me. I love it. Okay, so let's shift into setting up our first breakout. So, the question that we're going to move through together, and we're going to copy and paste these instructions for you in the chat in just a minute. But before we do that, given what the data shows us in this TriTank study findings, we want to begin to tease out possibility and opportunity for ministry with young adult parents in our context, okay? In our context. So we're not thinking about the Presbyterian church down the block. We're not thinking about the ECLA church in the next neighborhood over. We're not thinking about how anybody is doing ministry other than our church in our context with the relationships we currently have. So we're going to break out into groups of 4. And I'm going to set up these instructions before we break out into those breakout rooms so that you know exactly what you're doing. And Janet is going to help us copy and paste these into the chat. So we're going to have 12 minutes in this first breakout. The first minute is just a quick, hey, my name is, and your pronouns if you would like to share. And then one sentence about why you're back for session number 2. Why are you here today? Then you're going to nominate or volunteer 3 different roles: a note taker, a timekeeper, and a reporter. So if you're feeling one of those roles, please go ahead and self-nominate yourself. And your timekeeper is going to help each of you have 2 minutes to dreamstorm out loud around the following questions. The following questions are, and this is going to be in the chat, so you'll have it to reference right there. What can you and your church create together that would make a difference in the lives of young parents? What can you and your church create together that would make a difference in the lives of young parents? So again, looking forward to creation rather than backward to problems. B, who needs to be included in the discernment for something different to occur? Who needs to be included in order for something different to occur? Then once everybody has had 2 minutes to share around those questions, the final 2 minutes, and we'll place a little prompt when we know that the 2 minutes is coming up, is that each person in the group is going to reflect out loud about another person's share until everybody's been heard. And you're going to say, this is what is 10% possible about what Jane shared. This is what is 10% possible about what Bob shared. And you're just going to speak out loud that one quick sentence of like, this is what's possible out of what you just shared. And so this is where the dreaming is going to get started. Okay. So Janet, would you help us get into breakout rooms? And we'll hop into that for the next 12 minutes, and we'll give you a 2-minute warning when we are on the way back in. Thank you for being awkward, brave, and kind together in these breakout rooms. We're excited to hear what comes up out of these spaces. All right, so we'll start filtering back in from breakout room land, that magical Zoom invention that morphs us between time and space. Hey, welcome back in. I'm excited to hear what dream storms have begun out of these sessions. If you were a digital note taker and you would be willing in a moment, but not right this second, in a moment, if you would be willing to copy and paste those into the chat so we can glean from what you learned, great. And then if you didn't take digital notes and there's a different way that you want to capture those for us, at the end of the session, we can put a couple emails in and you can send those on email, but we do want to glean from you what you heard. So let's hear out loud from a couple of reporters from these breakout groups. We need some brave souls to be awkward, brave, and kind with us here. What did you hear in your breakouts that will make a real difference for young parents? And who needs to be included for something different to occur? So can we get somebody that would come off of mute and raise your hand, and we'll select you here and invite you to share with us what you heard. All right, Kate, would you be willing to share with us? We'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, absolutely. So our group talked a lot about fellowship, looking different ways. So one idea was parents are looking for intentional community with other parents to talk about decisions that they're making relating to their children's upbringing. And then one of the responses in there was the idea to call it the village. And some people have that outside of the church, but some people are looking for that with other church parents. So that was one. Then another suggestion came from, or thought was from a camp ministry context where they're together for 9 weeks during the summer and then are looking for ways to reconvene throughout the school year. And so our 10% possibility on that was to meet on holidays, on federal holidays where all schools are off, and making that a day of intentional community with one another. So like MLK, President's Day, Election Day were all suggestions. So yeah.
Amazing. Thank you for reporting that back for us. So, some possibilities beginning to bubble under here from ways to connect that don't look like traditional week to week, week in, week out ministry. Thank you for that. Okay, we'd love to hear from another group reporter. If you're willing to raise your digital hand so that we can peek you. All right, Nathan, we'd love to hear from you if you want to come off of mute and share with us what you're hearing here.
Yeah, we talked about the really the need to make sure that what we're doing enriches parents as well as kids. So not thinking in terms of just sort of kid-focused things, but how do we provide support, programming, encouragement for parents in particular.
Mhm.
And we also, so we identified there is one of our churches is going to be doing watching together a documentary series on kids' social media lives, and specifically getting parents together to watch that and reflect on that together, and providing childcare during that so the parents don't have to parent while they're talking about parenting. Um, and we also talked about the ways that uh, we have and so can still do provide practical help. So things like a meal train, those sorts of things. But making sure that a parent has like a particular point person that they know they can turn to for just the practical hands-on help, that they don't have to just sort of invent that somewhere in the community.
Okay. So, what I love about this share here, thank you so much for using your voice to help us hear this, is meeting the actual needs of the parents in the context of what they're looking for help in. Powerful stuff there. Okay, let's see here. Let's hear from Kristen. Kristen, share with us what your group was beginning to glean about doing things differently.
I think that's probably we're gonna probably start to overlap, but really figuring out how to reach families where they are. And making it personal, um, having a personal connection with them that maybe doesn't even have anything to do with church or religion. Getting to know them, uh, making sure they know that we care, that we're there for them as people, not just a body in a pew at church. And then making investments, those just mainly those connections and investments, whether they're at the building through like a special coffee time with just the parents, while the children are doing something else. Um, but really just how do we reach the families, and help them to understand that we do care about them as people, because and then we feel like once they know that we care and we're there for them, that we can build trust with them to bring them into the church environment, a little bit at a time.
Got it. Okay, so personalizing these responses over programmatic themes. I'm loving it. Okay, I'm going to invite, let's see if we can get 2 more shares in. Margaret Brungard, would you share with us what your group began to glean?
Yes. So we talked about along the lines of reaching families where they are. We talked about possibility for like meetups on the playground or other play spaces, partially because I think part of the barrier is um, getting people into a church when they've never been into a church building before, and some of the apprehension and fear parents have about having their kids behave, in a church context. And so if you're in a play area somewhere that is free for them to use their bodies and play and enjoy, it's less stressful, and you can still have a wonderful worship experience and time together in a place that feels less restrictive. And then we also talked about the importance of tying in community service, and that parents are looking for some sort of mission or service opportunities. And so, how can we add those opportunities in? And also, then the intergenerational piece. And like, I think that's something that a lot of us have tried and kind of haven't found the sweet spot yet of what is nourishing for people of all ages. But that's what we're thinking about.
Okay. Okay, thank you for letting us know where your group's dreamstorming began to lead you. All right, let's do one more. Jordan Davis, would you share with us what your group began to glean about doing things differently and who might need to be included in the conversation?
Yeah, so we focused on really 2 different things, both at-home resources, especially that there's so many resources out there since COVID. And so going through those, I got an email the other day about one that is not a good resource. And I found that out after paying $10, but I'm glad because now I can tell my people it's not good. But what is good, and then beyond what's good, what's appropriate for our people. But that also brought up the question of how do we actually encourage them to use it when they take it, if they pick it up off the table, if they take it from our hands, how do we encourage them to actually use it at home? And then pairing with that, how can we shape leaders within the congregations to empower and lead these young parents? And that was a lot of it. And just the struggle of some of the people we need to talk to the most are the parents who are not able to come for a variety of reasons. And I added to it, how do we communicate what we do have? Because I think so many churches, I'm hearing ideas right now that we've all had, and a lot of us are doing them, but how do we tell the world we're doing them so that they can come and see that?
Okay. Thank you all to the brave souls who let us hear your voices. And if you didn't hear this invitation while you were still coming in from your breakout rooms, if you have a digitally captured note, please pop those into the chat. If you don't have digital notes and want to capture that by a camera picture or something like that, we'll place that at the end so that we know that we can hear from all of you. But we would love to have that in the chat. So let's pause here from sort of the group brainstorming, dreamstorming space, and let's shift into the opportunity to do a little bit of spotlight coaching and idea generation using a tool called the Innovate game that I'm going to model in some spotlight coaching here for a moment. At the end of our session today, at the end of our webinar, we're going to drop a 1-page PDF for you to take with you to use this and model this either in your committees or your sessions or the dream teams that are joining you to do this work. But I do want to ask if there is one leader in our webinar today who's begun to percolate about an effective way to connect with young parents who might want to receive some spotlight coaching about what's working or not working in this idea. So either it's an idea you've tested or you want to explore if it's viable. So is there someone out there that is feeling brave, has an idea percolating, and would like to receive some spotlight coaching? If that's you, give us a digital hand raise and we will hear from you. Okay, Lisa, do you want to come off of mute and we'll see what idea is percolating for you?
Okay, sure. Um, The one idea I've been tossing around in my own brain recently is trying to do some sort of parent coffee hour, like out and about though, or where I'm just, I don't know, at Starbucks or something for a couple of hours for parents to drop in and chat with me, with each other. Um, but I'm not really sure how to get it off the ground or if that's something parents would even be interested in taking advantage of.
Okay, amazing. Okay, so let's maybe take about 10 minutes to go through this idea generation together with some coaching questions and see where we can arrive about whether or not this is an idea that you want to test at the end. So I hear you saying that you don't know if it's something that parents want. And then I heard you use the phrase, I don't know how to get it started. So those two questions are sort of percolating under this idea for you. Okay, amazing. So when you think about sort of this laser focused session and walking away from this session in 10 minutes, which is a quick 10 minutes, but it's totally doable, what would be the most helpful thing for you to know when we exit 10 minutes from now?
If I'm being completely honest, probably if it's worth my time to try to figure out how to do it, if parents are going to show up.
Okay. So this is for you about the time that you need to invest in figuring out if parents want to experience this with you. You know that your time and energy is valuable and you want to know if it's worth it.
Yes.
Okay. When has a ministry idea in the past that isn't yet tried, when has an example from the past proved worth it to you?
Well, we do parents' night out a couple times a year, and that has proven to be worth it. It's a lot of time and some effort, but a lot of parents we have don't really have family, don't really have a village. So to be able to bring their kids here and have a little bit of respite and have their kids in a safe place has meant a lot to them. So that's one I would say we've done in the past that was very successful and meaningful to the parents and providing them some support that I would say is worth it.
Okay. So I hear you saying it takes effort on your part to organize it and make it happen. But the worth it part for you is because you're getting feedback from parents that it's alleviating, relieving, it's helping meet a need for them, right? The worth it part is the feedback loop. Is that true?
Yes.
Okay. So, a curiosity then that I have about trying this coffee hour with parents is how are you going to know it's worth it without feedback?
I guess probably just participation. If I can see relationship building and see connections happening with parents who come.
Okay. So it seems to me like there's going to have to be a little bit of a risk for you to have data to pull from about whether or not the feedback is happening and whether or not the parents are appreciating it, right? Like there's going to almost have to be like an experiment period for you to know, is this a thing I want to keep trying?
Yeah.
Okay. So a follow-up question then to that is if the idea is percolating and you're still trying to figure out, is this worth it to me? Are you willing to take the risk for like, for example, oh, what's that terminology when you like a trial subscription, right? Like when you're buying a product or a service and you're like, I don't know if I want to invest my $10 a month and fill in the blank, but they're like, hey, free 3-month trial, and then we'll start charging your credit card on month 4, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
are you willing to do the trial subscription for a certain amount of time to figure out if this particular way to connect with parents is actually landing. Are you willing to do that?
Yes.
Okay. And using our 10% possible sort of rule here, thinking innovatively, about how much time are you willing to put into that? Is this a weekly thing? Is this a monthly thing? Like, let's just start brainstorming a little bit here what might be possible around your trial period.
I think for the trial period, probably monthly, maybe every other week.
Okay. Okay. So, for example, it's September the 8th, and we know December is fast approaching, and December is a crazy time. So maybe there's a September, October, November trial period that you allow yourself to try this twice a month over the next 3 months, and you don't shut it down if nobody shows up the first time. You don't shut it down if nobody shows up the second time, but you begin to tease out what's possible over the next 3 months. Would it be worth it to you to try your idea to see if it lands with parents?
Yes.
Okay. Tell me why. Tell me why it would be worth it.
I mean, I think the 10% is why it's worth it. If it does work, then it's worth the effort that I've put into it. And if it doesn't work, then it's one more piece of the puzzle to help me figure out what's working, what's not working, what parents need, what they don't need, so that
Mm.
I could hone in maybe on something different if it seems that that's not working.
Okay. So you need some evidence that provides that feedback loop so that you know this did work because fill in the blank, and now I know what to tweak. Or this didn't work because fill in the blank, and now I know how better to connect with them because coffee in a coffee shop wasn't it.
Right. Right.
Okay. So when you think about trying this, okay, and this trial period, potentially giving it a try in September, October, November, um, what's your biggest hurdle, like organizationally, for putting yourself in a coffee shop? Like, what's the organizational thing that just feels a little tricky to you right now?
Um, Probably just timing, because like it's not hard for me to just go sit at a coffee shop, but trying to do that at a time when it's going to be convenient for parents so that the ones who do want to come can make that work for their schedule. Because some with preschool kids, elementary kids, all different times um, that they might be able to come.
Okay, brilliant. Okay, great. So a hurdle to you giving this a trial is figuring out the time that works. Would you be willing to be awkward, brave, and kind with me and play the innovate game with me?
Sure.
Okay, awesome. Okay, I'm gonna describe it really quick, and then we're gonna play it for about 2 minutes, and then we'll close out our laser focused coaching. So here's how innovate works. Um, I'm gonna start with an idea about how to figure out that timing issue. And it's like we're gonna volley back and forth. So I'm gonna volley the idea to you, and you're gonna say, yes, what I like about that is, and you're gonna fill in the blank, and then you're gonna say, and what if? And so then you're gonna volley your idea back to me. And then I'm gonna say, yes, what I like about that is, and then I'm gonna say, and what if? And I'm gonna volley back to you. So for about 2 minutes, we're just gonna volley some weird ideas back and forth, and we're gonna see what sticks. Okay, Lisa?
All right.
Okay. So, Lisa, what if in order to figure out the timing of this coffee shop thing, you crafted a web form using Google Docs and texted every single young person that you know in your ministry with the web form?
Yes, I like that idea. And what if they send it to some of their friends who don't go to our church yet?
Okay. What I love about what you just said is that it is connected to the people inside of your community and it's connected to folks that might not be a part of your church. So, what if you created um, a massive sandwich board that lived on your church's sidewalk for the next 60 days that had a QR code to the web form and invited people to sign up on the web form to figure out what times work for coffee for them?
Yes, I like that idea because it would give me a lot of feedback. What if there's still a lot of different times and no consistency in the responses?
Okay, so if we're still trying to find a time, what if you provided two different times in a month? So there was one that was the most, like the first and second most popular times. You just tried those on for the next 3 months and saw which one was best attended.
Yes, I like that idea. And then what if one was much more well attended than the other? And so I could narrow it down to just that one time.
Okay. All right, so let's pause the innovate game there. So quick pulse check with you, Lisa. Which of those ideas that we just generated do you think is 10% possible for figuring out the timing of this?
Um, I mean, I think I could definitely send an interest form to folks um, to see if there is interest and what time would work best. So I think
Okay.
that would definitely be a good place to start and would be pretty easily possible to do.
Okay. So this is a possibility for you to begin to figure out when the heck do we host this. So let's see how we're doing on your intention for our spotlight coaching, and then I'll let you come off of the spotlight. Thanks for being our guinea pig today.
Thank
How
you.
are we doing on your how are we doing on your intention to know whether or not this idea is worth your time? Is this worth your time?
I think it's worth my time to um, get some initial feedback from parents to see if they're interested in it. And I think that even just doing a form or something like that to get feedback would help me because then if nobody's interested, I would know that before I invest a lot of my time in it. Um,
Mhm.
but I do think it is helpful. Definitely gave some helpful ideas of how to approach it.
Okay. Well, thank you for being a willing guinea pig. We appreciate your voice
Sure.
very much.
Thank you.
Okay. So, friends in the webinar, here's what I want to invite you to do. I'm going to give you about 3 minutes to doodle or journal or begin to just think out loud about what is resonating for you right now or out of the coaching session. What parallels do you see in your own context? And what reservations, this is actually a really important question. What reservations are beginning to pile up for you around testing connecting to young adults in your context? So for about the next 3 minutes, I'm just going to be quiet and just invite you to doodle, bullet journal, however it is that you want to get these thoughts somewhere other than your head. Begin to think for yourself. What's resonating for you? What resonated for you in the coaching conversation? What parallels do you see in your own context? And what reservations are piling up for you? Yeah. So the repeat of the question is, what resonated for you? What parallels do you see in your own context? And what reservations are piling up? I'm going to give you about 90 more seconds to get your thoughts out somewhere, somehow. Thank you to those that are getting brave enough to put this in the chat. It's always helpful to know we're not alone. And sometimes we see things differently when we hear from others. Okay, so we're going to head into our second breakout of our session today. And our goal here is to begin to practice taking some risks together in our thought and verbal processing so that we can determine what is the next most faithful step for ministry with young adults, ministry with young parents. So, some more nerdy brain science for you. The brain is really, really good at the all or nothing trick. So it convinces us, unless I can predetermine the outcome, or unless I know exactly how this is going to pan out, or unless I know exactly who's going to be on board with helping me try this, I'm not going to try it, right? So we have to unclick the all or nothing button in our brains in order to innovate and practice possibility together. So the goal here is really to think each other into free speech. So here's what we're going to be doing in breakout number 2. You're going to have another 12 minutes. And I want you to dig deep a little bit here. And in the first minute, everybody just share in a sentence, what are you feeling most hopeful about from the webinar so far? Where are you gleaning hope and possibility? Then you're going to nominate another note taker, another timekeeper, and another reporter. And then you're going to each have 2 minutes to dreamstorm out loud. If you knew you could not fail or mess up, what's one thing you would try or risk or prototype in the next 60 to 90 days to connect with and meet the needs of young parents? So if you just knew, I'm going to try this and there is no failure on my deck, there's no possibility of failing, I'm just going to try it and I'm going to bring these folks in to join me, what would you do? And who would you include in giving this a try? So who needs to be in the room? Then once each person has had the opportunity to talk about that risk-free trial, then at the end, you're going to take about 2 minutes for each, for not each, but 2 minutes for all of you to reflect out loud. How much risk are you willing to take to try this in your ministry context? So everything, everything that is has been thought of and tried up in some person's head somewhere. So it always takes risk. So how much risk are you willing to take? And who might you connect with this week to share about your dreamstorm? So taking this out of the webinar and into your context, who might you connect with this week to share about your dreamstorm? Okay, so we're going to head into those breakout rooms, and then we will come back to glean what we're hearing from at the end. Thanks, Janet, for setting us up to head into those breakout rooms. All right, as you all begin to trickle in, I'm going to be looking for maybe 2, maybe 3 spokesfolks to share with us about what possibilities you can brag about from your group's storming session? And what did your group find hopeful? So would there be anybody that would like to raise your hand to come on in and share with us from your breakout groups? What possibilities can you brag about from your group's brainstorming session? And why is your group feeling hopeful? All right, Alex, share with us. What'd you hear?
First, I want to apologize to my group. I hit the space bar and it bumped me out about 30 seconds before I meant it to. But one of the things we were talking about, like we kind of migrated from like supper club, like if I could do one thing without any repercussions, I would host dinner at my house. I like to host. I come from a family that is known for having just like big gatherings. And I like to do it, but I don't live in it. Like I live in a little rental right now. I don't have the capacity for it, but that migrated to this idea of like a what's for dinner freezer meal prep class where like the church pays for someone to come in and like facilitate it, and then different, because like what's the thing my husband and I always talk about every night is like, what are we having for dinner tonight, like what are we making for dinner, and just like offering that as like kind of a one-off, see how it goes and see who like plugs in. And then it's like pretty low, it's like low stakes I think on the programming end, and also like pretty high reward and like low stakes for the parents. So you're doing something so you can like visit, but you're kind of preoccupied, but like there's an end result. So if you're more shy, you don't have to like kind of sit there and stare at someone and be like, yes, please. So that was an idea that came from our group that I'm like very interested in now. I'm like, I think there's something there.
Oh, I love it. Babby calls it pasta with the pastor. I'm loving this dream storm. I'm loving how it's rooted in something you care about and a piece of your cultural values that you would love to replicate. And I love how it's meeting direct needs, right? So thank you for sharing this dream storm. Let's see if we can hear from one other. Brooke Tucker, do you want to share with us the possibilities that began to bubble up for your group? What's feeling hopeful?
Yeah, we're just hopeful about this space that we're all here from across the United States and we're seeing and feeling the same thing. But we all want change, and that makes us super helpful, and that there's power in that we all want it. We talked about partnering with other churches to bring more families out, that there's power in numbers. Sometimes it's scary to be the only like family coming to a church, but if you can get churches together, we can have power in numbers. Just community events, having an art space open. A lot of the families in our one group members area live in apartments, so they don't have room to do these big art projects. So just saying like, hey, here's an open space for your toddler to come and play and get messy in our church. Is a great opportunity to say like the church is a safe space, like hosting a music concert, helping parents check off those boxes of like, I want my kid to be musically inclined. I want them to be good in sports, but then also like a little side of faith in that, so it's not overwhelming.
Okay. And of course, any parent is going to say safe space to be messy is such a needed, wanted thing. So love what was starting to bubble up for you all. Thank you for sharing, Brooke. Well, I just want to close out with two things. First, if you were a digital note taker, if you haven't yet, would you drop your notes from that second breakout for us into the chat so that we can harvest those and grab those? And then Janet is going to drop a PDF resource for you into the chat channel here. That is just something that you can download and take with you to reinvent the innovate. Yes, what I like about that game. So dreamstorming really needs to live in the realm of possibility. And so you can use this with co-conspirators, you can use this with session members, you can use this with anybody that is wanting to help embody this and make this possible. And so it's all described in that little handout there. And then before I hand it back to Nima to close us out, would really appreciate any feedback that you all would be willing to drop for me in this feedback form about the facilitation of this webinar. Always looking for ways to improve my skill set. So would love to have your feedback there. But this was really full of spirit tingling gratitude. I appreciate all of you for showing up awkward, brave, and kind to begin to dream together. And I pass it back to Reverend Nima to help us close out.
Thank you so much, Libby, for your brilliant leadership and facilitation today. And I also want to thank those of you who joined us today. So, friends, thank you for coming and being brave, kind, and willing to lean into the awkward as we shared wisdom and dreams for our session 2 today in Holy Shift series. And so, as I mentioned before, this series is unfolding like a journey. Session 1, we looked at the data. Session 2, we have leaned into dreaming, imagining what could be. And our next session on September the 23rd, same time, 1 p.m. at Eastern, we'll turn toward doing, seeing how other faith leaders are offering ministry to the young adult parents and children in their care. And so, as a reminder, those who attend all 3 sessions will be invited to apply for a one-on-one coaching opportunity. We saw a little bit of laser coaching today, so thank you for that. Designed to support you in putting your dreams into practice. And so I hope you'll carry today's conversations with you into the days ahead and join us for session number 3. And so I'd like to close us now with this blessing based on Psalm 121. The Lord will protect you on your journeys, whether going or coming. And may the peace that Jesus promised be ever flowing. May the gifts of the Holy Spirit guide you through life's embrace, and the joy of the Lord strengthen you in every place. As you walk your path and face each new sight, may God's abundant blessings surround you from dawn until night. Let the children of God say amen. And we thank you so much for being with us. God bless you all and continue to be with you as you lead God's faithful people. Amen.
Thank you.